start with a fairly standard problem on finding the volume of the sphere. So here's a sphere. The diameter is 8 meters. We want to figure out what the volume of the sphere is. We're going to use our volume formula, which is 4 pi r cubed over 3. You may also just see this as 4/3 pi r cubed with the fraction separated, so it's the same either way. So 4 pi times the radius. Well, given that this sphere has a diameter of 8 meters, our radius is going to be half of that diameter, so our radius is going to be 4 meters. So we just take that value of 8 divided by 2. So 4 times pi times 4 raised to the power of 3, all divided by 3. And I worked that out in my calculator. I ended up with 2,144.66 meters cubed. So just a few things to note of importance about this procedure and this answer. So since we're finding a volume, our units are going to be cubed when we get to the end. Make sure you use the pi button on your calculator so you get a more accurate version of pi and not one that is rounded to 3.14. But otherwise, this is about as complex as a standard volume of a sphere question can get. The only possible complexity that can really be thrown in is, are you given a diameter or radius? Realize that the formula always uses the radius, so if you are given the diameter, you'll have to divide it by 2 in order to change it into a radius. In the second problem, we're given the volume. We have to work backwards and figure out what the radius is. So we have a sphere with a volume of 850 centimeters cubed. What's the radius of the sphere? So we're still going to use this formula. Volume equals 4 pi r cubed over 3. We know the volume. The volume is 850 centimeters cubed. So we get 850 equals 4 pi r cubed over 3. So our goal in all of this is going to be to solve for r. So we're going to need to remove everything else from the right-hand side of the equation. And the first thing that we're going to start with is by getting rid of this 3 in the denominator. So we're going to multiply both sides by 3. And the effect here is 3 divided by 3 is 1, so that will reduce on the right-hand side of our equation. So this gives us 2,550 equals 4 pi r cubed. So we want to get r by itself still. We need to get rid of 4 and pi. Since they're being multiplied, we're going to want to divide both sides by 4 pi. Now be careful when this goes into your calculator. Make sure when you're doing your 2,550 divided by 4 pi, the 4 pi has to be in brackets. If you divide and you don't place it in brackets, you won't get an accurate answer if you're doing it on a scientific calculator. So I divided that out earlier. I ended up with 202.9225 equals r cubed. I kept 5 decimal places. You should really keep at least 4. Really, it's better to keep the full accurate number in your calculator and perhaps not write the full value. So I have 10 decimal places in my calculator. I just wrote out 5 of them here. Our last step is we want to figure out what r is. We have r cubed on the right-hand side. So to find r, we are going to have to take the cube root of both of these sides. So the cube root of r cubed will be r. And we have to put the cubed root of 202.92255 in our calculator. I did that and I ended up with 5.88 centimeters when I rounded it. Now, taking this value and putting it in your calculator, different scientific calculators will do this slightly differently, but in almost all cases, you are going to look for this button or this feature, an X with a radical sign. And if you're on the TIs, you're going to want to hit the math key. And after you press math, you will see that option on the list. That means take the xth root. And in this case, we want to take the cube root. So the way this is going to look when you type it in your calculator, in all likelihood, will be something like this. 3, and you'll see an x followed by a radical sign. Perhaps there will be a bracket, perhaps there will not be. And then you're going to put that number of 202.92255, or perhaps you'll have the full unrounded value in your calculator, and then you'll hit the enter key and you should end up with that 5.88 that I have here. So I encourage you to make sure that you do that on your calculator right now, just to verify that you can find that functionality and you get the same answer that I had here of 5.88 centimeters. So those are the two types of questions that you could be asked for in this unit regarding the volume of a sphere. Given a radius or a diameter, find the volume, or given a volume, work backwards to find the radius.